Dr. Thompson, the first thing I'd like to know is your full name and some of your personal background.
Well, Bob, I'm Howard Elliott Thompson. I was born in Dobbs Ferry, which is a suburb of New York City, and lived quite a while in New York City and out on Long Island. Educated at Albany Academy, Syracuse Central High School. From thence I went to Penn State University, to Springfield College, to Ohio State, getting my 3 degrees there, and then finally at Carolina, where I got my doctor's degree. I guess I've been a Yankee until 1950 when I came to Carolina to get the doctorate.
Well, did you teach at schools in the South after you got your doctorate, or would you take me from this point now when you got your doctorate? Where did you go from that point?
Well, when I got the doctor's degree, I went out to Missouri State University in Kirksville, Missouri, as the director of athletics and the dual professor of physical education and education, head of the Department of Physical Education.
Now, at what period did you come to Wilkes County? We want to bring you right on into Wilkes County as quickly as possible.
Well, in July of 1953, I got a call to come back to Carolina that there was a vacancy at Wilkes Central High School, a new consolidated high school in Wilkesboro, North Wilkesboro. And 3 weeks later, I was here to take the place of the late Mr. Wooten. At that time, in August of '53, I intended only to stay 1 year and move on, possibly to some other place in the state of North Carolina. But each year extended itself because there was more and more of a challenge. It was rather ironic at the time that I came here in 1953, there were only 3 of us in education in this state who were principals of high schools with doctor's degrees, and only 2 superintendents had doctor's degrees. And I had a feeling that people looked upon us that we either committed larceny or rape or something like that, and that's why we were hiding out in our communities. But it was a challenge in those days. We did not have the extensive faculty participation that they have today. We had just a number of faculty members that were necessary to teach, for instance, at Wilkes Central High School. And one thing that people do forget, Wilkes Central High School was not only North Wilkesboro and Wilkesboro, but was Ferguson High School in there too. So the 3 high schools came together to form Wilkes Central High School in 1952. And when I came here, they had about 789 students in what is 1/4 the size of what is now the Woodward Junior High School. And for that reason, we had a problem of movement of troops from one classroom to the other, and we had to devise what they said were the Thompson circles. You went counterclockwise in the hall until you came to your room and then peeled off into the room, and that was the only way we could survive. But we got additional buildings as we went along. It was definitely a challenge, not only to bring all of the students together from 3 different communities, 2 of which disliked each other intensely, the 2 Wilkesboros, North and Wilkesboro proper, but also to bring the students to a point where more of them went away from the community into either more formal education or to work. At the time in 1953, something like 26% of the graduates went on in formal education. In 1962, which was the last year of my tenure here as principal, we had 67% going on. And I'm mighty proud of the fact that during those 9 years, students who matriculated at Wilkes Central over 100 of them became doctors, either medical, chiropractic, or PhDs of some sort. But over 100 of those students went on and did well. And we've had quite a few of the students who have graduated from Wilkes Center who have become heads of corporations. So that gives one a terrific feeling when you talk about, do you educate them? And we've also turned out some excellent housewives.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a situation that we should remember. But there were some unique facets of Wilkes Central that we could do because we were off the beaten track. We were not in a direct line with Raleigh, which was the home office of all education. And therefore, we were able to put in the 5-track program, where students could either take a general program, could take an academic program, an academically enriched program, a business program, or just a terminal program. That is 4 years, and tried their darndest, and in 4 years would graduate with dignity. Well, you can't operate under the 5-track program today because of the different laws of the country. But I still believe that people should compete with like people. They should not compete with superior people or inferior people. And I'm talking about it in a program where students are not inferior as to color, race, or anything else, but they're inferior as to ability.
Right.
Don't make them compete against the Phi Beta Kappas, because they will get no enjoyment out of the education process. We only had, as I said, just enough teachers. And by the way, teachers had to teach in a classroom situation 20 days before they were paid. So if we had snow days, there were times when teachers were not paid for 2 months. And at that time, the pay was very minimal compared to today. So we had a unique situation. I think we had more involvement by teachers, and I hate to say that because it kind of draws a line, but we had more involvement of teachers with students. I would get more done in the back area of the cafeteria than I would in the office by sitting on the smoker's bench with my students and talking. Well, the students went through the 5-track program. Some of them went on to college, some went into the military, some went into households, some went into aviation and the like. And the main thrust then, since we did not have much in the way of corporate headquarters here in the 50s, as we do today, was to get students who were capable out into the market, whether it was Baltimore or Washington, D.C., New York, Detroit, wherever it was, so they could make a good living. Then after the 60s, well, we had to tell them to stay home, and help us out here. But up until 1962, the students took a great deal of pride in the high school. That was what we tried to engender, was pride. We had a penny a day tax of students. So there was 180 days, it would be $1.80 a year. It was voluntary. Students could pay 5 cents a week, or they could pay 20 cents a month, or they could pay nothing. But would you believe it? We had almost 100% participation in that penny a day. Now, it went to the student fund. At the same time, I was an abolitionist. I cut out the Washington trip for seniors my second year. I did it because money was leaving the community that we could ill afford to lose. It was putting a burden on some of the parents who could ill afford to dress their child to go to Washington. There were so many things that were against making trips at that particular time. Now they're back into the system of having field trips to Williamsburg and Washington. That's the way they wanted to run it now. We also had a very strong summer school. The summer school at the high school was not just for those who failed. It was for those who wanted to get a more in-depth education, taking typing. The students who went on to college, didn't take typing because they could not give up a year for something that they really needed. So they took it in the summer. They took the solid and trig in the summer in the main. So most of the students who were academically enriched graduated with over 26 units of credit. And it was almost a privilege to go to summer school. They felt it. We had a summer school of over 500 students. And we not only employed a number of teachers for the 6-week period, but I believe we were the only summer school that Appalachian sent student teachers to in the summer. We were very fortunate. We had 2 people in every classroom then conducting the programs. So the summer school had meeting. We also had our students out into the preschool programs, into the nursing programs. They did some actual hands-on work, although we had no vocational money at that time. So as we went along and we became a bigger facility, high school, and got our gymnasium and got some additional rooms for home economics and the like, then I believe we took on a much better feeling with the community as a high school. When we first started, we were a little school tucked behind a hill that eventually became the YMCA. And not many people thought too much of us, although we were the only high school in Northwest North Carolina at that time that was accredited by the Southern Association. And that was a fortunate thing. I was on the state committee for the Southern Association from 1954 until 1965. So I knew how it worked, and I knew we better get on to it. And so we were certified and accredited by the Southern Association back in 1954, which meant a lot to our students as they went out into the field. It was a tremendous thing. By the way, I served as trainer for the football team. I sat on the bench in every game, home and away. And that brought me closer to the situation. They felt that I was part of it. There were times, I'm sure, and I've said this before, there were more signs, I believe, around Wilkes Central High School about Yankee Go Home than you could find around the Tokyo Air Base. But by the same thing, we had a good feeling among the student body. We had things that they don't have now, like the detention hall at the end of school day. We made up days for snow days, whether they were Saturdays or any other day. So we always graduated on time because we had makeup days. We had compulsory examinations every week in every subject. On Monday, we would have the first and second period subjects. On Tuesday, it was open for the organizational meetings of the different clubs. On Wednesday, we had the third period. On Thursday, we had the fourth period. On Friday, we had the fifth and sixth. Now, originally, I will say that my motive was to keep students from extending their weekends. Because if they had an examination on the fifth and sixth period on Friday, and the first and second on Monday, they could not take Friday and Monday off. But